1944. Following the triumph in Normandy, Allied forces surged across Europe, but their momentum was on the brink of collapse. The problem wasn't the enemy, it was the ground. Even the legendary Jeep and heavy trucks bogged down in autumnal mud, the deep snows of the Ardennes, or the sandy dunes of Italy. Every stuck vehicle meant delay in fuel delivery, casualty evacuation, and the resupply of critical ammunition. The war's logistical momentum was stalling, threatening to slow the advance to a crawl. Command needed not a tank, but a machine that could move where tanks sank. A true all-terrain vehicle capable of ignoring the landscape. The solution came not from the heavy armor industry, but from an eccentric British engineer and the American company Studebaker, known for civilian cars. They engineered a machine so light and with such wide tracks that it exerted less ground pressure than a human foot. This is the incredible, often unsung, story of the M29 Weasel. Developed for secret Arctic missions, this tracked transport became the unarmored logistical key on the battlefield. It didn't fight battles, but its amphibious capability and unmatched mobility allowed the Allies to sustain the critical momentum needed for victory, turning impassable terrain into essential supply route. We begin our deep dive into the engineering genius. How agility, low-tech design, and broad tracks overcame logistical chaos and changed the rules of engagement on the front lines. If you're fascinated by the forgotten logistical triumphs and low-tech brilliance of World War II, we encourage you to join our community and subscribe for more definitive history. The M29 Weasel's true genesis lay far from the battlefields of Europe, in a secret, highly ambitious Allied plan to sabotage German heavy water facilities in Norway. This was the planned Operation Pluto, not the pipeline. The mission demanded a vehicle capable of rapid, silent movement over deep snow and ice, terrain that crippled conventional transport. The American military needed a solution that was light enough to be delivered by air and mobile enough to handle Arctic extremes. This seemingly impossible mandate led directly to the development of a unique, tracked vehicle. The driving force behind the Weasel was Geoffrey Pike, a brilliant, eccentric, and sometimes controversial British inventor and journalist. Pike's unconventional mind was focused on logistical solutions. He believed that traditional, heavy military design was failing in niche environments. He was tasked with developing the specialized transport for the snowbound sabotage mission, and his non-traditional approach, focusing on minimal ground pressure and wide tracks, formed the basis for the M29 design. Pike's initial concept was codenamed Pike's Peak. He envisioned an articulated, highly specialized vehicle that could achieve near-impossible levels of mobility in snow. While the final M29 design was simpler than Pike's most ambitious blueprints, the core principle was retained. The vehicle must achieve flotation over soft ground, not traction. This meant prioritizing a low-profile chassis and wide, flexible tracks, ensuring that the machine would simply float over snow and mud rather than dig into it. When the project was greenlit, the contract for manufacturing the experimental vehicle went to Studebaker Corporation, a company primarily known for passenger cars. This choice was deliberate. The Weasel required expertise in mass production, but also flexibility in manufacturing that traditional armored vehicle builders, like those focused on tanks, lacked. Studebaker adapted quickly, utilizing their experience with civilian engines and chassis to rapidly prototype and produce the specialized tracked system in large numbers. The final military designation was the M29 cargo carrier, but it quickly earned the nickname Weasel. This nickname, likely inspired by the vehicle's compact size, stealthy movements, and ability to move quickly and unpredictably through terrain where other vehicles couldn't follow, stuck instantly. The name perfectly captured the essence of the machine, not a beast of burden or a tank, but a clever, agile creature designed to bypass obstacles. The Weasel's most ingenious feature was its ability to achieve exceptional low ground pressure. This was the core of Pike's concept. By pairing a lightweight, largely unarmored chassis with extremely wide, flat tracks, the M29 distributed its weight, around 2 tons, over a massive surface area. This meant it exerted less pressure per square inch than a human foot. This flotation ability allowed it to skim over soft, boggy ground, deep snow and mud, where heavier, narrower-tracked vehicles would instantly sink and become immobilized. Unlike most military vehicles that relied on heavy-duty, purpose-built engines, the M29 Weasel was powered by a modified Studebaker Champion inline 6-cylinder engine. This was a standard, reliable engine used in Studebaker's civilian cars. Its use simplified production, maintenance, and logistics. While it lacked the raw power of a tank engine, the lightweight motor provided sufficient power for the Weasel's limited weight, prioritizing dependability and easy field repair over sheer horsepower. The Weasel went through a crucial evolution in its track design. Early prototypes used all-rubber tracks, favored for their lightness and silent operation. However, the military quickly moved to a more durable design: steel-reinforced rubber tracks, cleated tracks. This hybrid approach provided superior grip on ice and harsh terrain while retaining the low ground pressure necessary for soft surfaces. The simplicity of the tracks also meant they could be repaired piece by piece in the field. To maintain the critical low ground pressure, the M29 had to forego traditional military protection. Its hull was made of light steel or sometimes even reinforced composite materials, offering virtually no protection against anything larger than a rifle round. However, this lack of heavy armor was its strength. It kept the weight down, allowing it to perform its logistical and reconnaissance roles with unmatched speed and agility where protection was secondary to movement. The Weasel was initially not truly amphibious, but its flat, boat-like hull allowed it to ford shallow rivers. However, recognizing the need for true water crossings, engineers rapidly developed the M29 Seawater Weasel. This modification involved adding large, sealed flotation pontoons, or sponsons, to the bow and stern, turning the M29 into a surprisingly stable, paddle-driven, using the tracks, transport ideally suited for crossing canals and marshlands. This amphibious capability dramatically increased its utility in the final phases of the European campaign. Although initially designed for a secret mission in Norway, Operation Pluto, the Weasel was rapidly redirected to the European theater, where it was immediately needed in the mountainous terrain of Italy and later, the snowy frontiers of France. The early deployment was a stark test. The Weasel proved highly effective in delivering supplies and transporting troops across roads rendered impassable by deep winter snows, establishing its reputation as the essential snow-going logistician. After the successful beach landings in Normandy, the Allied advance quickly ran into a severe logistical bottleneck: the deep, churned-up French countryside mud. Traditional vehicles were constantly getting stuck, turning supply routes into a quagmire. The Weasel, with its incredibly low ground pressure, was one of the few vehicles that could reliably move off-road, navigating the mud-filled fields and connecting the main supply dumps with the forward operating units that were otherwise running critically short of fuel and ammunition. The Weasel's mobility made it an invaluable asset for medical evacuation, medevac teams. Its ability to quietly and swiftly reach wounded soldiers deep inside thick forests, muddy riverbanks, or rough terrain, places inaccessible to standard jeeps or ambulances, significantly improved survival rate. Modified Weasels were equipped to carry stretchers, serving as essential, if unarmored, forward ambulance units that brought the wounded safely back to casualty clearing stations. Maintaining continuous, reliable communications was vital for coordinated attack. The Weasel was frequently employed by Signal Corps unit. Its low speed and stable platform made it perfect for the difficult task of laying telephone wires and radio cables across rough, uneven, and often hostile terrain. By rapidly establishing these vital lines of communication, the Weasel directly contributed to the swift coordination of infantry and armored units. While the Weasel could not haul heavy artillery, Its surprising torque and traction made it an excellent light gun tractor. It was often used to tow mortars or light anti-tank guns, such as the 57mm gun, through marshes and deep mud, allowing commanders to position supporting fire in locations that would have been impossible to reach using wheeled vehicles. This flexibility gave Allied forces a tactical advantage in exploiting unexpected defensive positions. The Weasel earned its legendary status during the Battle of the Bulge, in the brutal winter of 1944 to 1945, when a sudden, massive German offensive resulted in deep snow and ice that paralyzed most Allied wheeled transport. The M29 became the sole reliable supply link. It was instrumental in moving ammunition, medical supplies, and food to the besieged troops, such as those at Bastogne. Without the Weasel's superior mobility in deep snow, the logistic crisis during the Bulge would have been far worse. In the push across Germany, Allied forces frequently encountered major water obstacles, particularly the Rhine River and its surrounding floodplains and marshlands. The amphibious M29 Water Weasel proved invaluable here. They served as reconnaissance vehicles, ferrying engineers to survey potential bridge sites, and carried initial equipment for setting up pontoon bridges. Their ability to transition seamlessly from water to soft riverbanks was crucial for securing beachheads on the opposite shore. The Weasel's incredibly low ground pressure offered a unique, albeit risky, advantage in mine-clearing operations. Because its weight was spread so widely, the M29 often failed to trigger pressure-sensitive anti-personnel or anti-tank mines that would detonate under heavier wheeled or traditional tracked vehicles. This characteristic made the Weasel a preferred transport for combat engineers and mine disposal teams who needed to carry equipment and personnel across suspected or known mined areas. While less famous for its service in the Pacific, the M29 was deployed there late in the war. Its qualities, especially the low ground pressure of the amphibious M29C, made it highly effective on soft, wet sand beaches and through the thick, boggy terrain of the islands. It quickly moved supplies and communication gear across beaches that would otherwise swallow standard transport vehicles, proving its versatility beyond its original Arctic mandate. German forces quickly recognized the threat posed by the agile M29, particularly its role in maintaining supply lines in bad weather. However, its small size, speed, and unpredictable movement made it difficult to target effectively. Wehrmacht snipers and light anti-tank teams were specifically instructed to watch for the Weasel, but its non-armored construction meant that often, a simple well-placed rifle round was enough to immobilize the engine or tracks, despite its overall mobility success. The definitive variant was the M29C Water Weasel. This amphibious version was achieved by bolting on large, sealed pontoons, sponsons, to the front and rear of the hull, significantly increasing buoyancy. Crucially, the M29C used its own tracks to propel itself through water, functioning like paddles. This ability to carry men and supplies across canals, rivers, and flooded areas without the need for a bridge or a dedicated landing craft made it a cornerstone of engineer and reconnaissance operations, particularly in Holland and Germany. The most common version was the standard M29 cargo carrier utility. This model was typically open-topped and unarmored, designed purely for cargo and personnel transport. It featured a generous cargo area capable of carrying a payload of around 1,200 pounds, 540 kilograms, equivalent to several stretchers or a significant amount of ammunition. The simplicity of the utility design was its strength, allowing it to be used for a vast array of common logistical tasks on every front. Even after its deployment was shifted to Europe, specialized Arctic variants remained in demand for extreme cold environments. These models sometimes featured fully enclosed, insulated cabins for the crew, specialized engine heaters, and track grousers designed for maximum grip on pure ice. Although mass-produced versions were standardized, these niche modifications highlighted the M29's adaptability to maintain full operational capability in sub-zero temperatures. Due to its relatively quiet engine and ability to traverse terrain silently, unlike heavy, grinding tanks, the Weasel was highly valued by reconnaissance units. It could carry small teams of scouts and specialized equipment, like radios, deep into forward areas or enemy flanks, traversing dense forests or marshes that shielded them from detection. The speed and agility of the Weasel gave the reconnaissance teams a vital element of surprise and extraction capability. The successful mass production and deployment of the M29 Weasel significantly boosted the reputation of the Studebaker Corporation. While primarily a car manufacturer, their ability to rapidly design and produce a complex, highly specialized military vehicle was a testament to American manufacturing ingenuity. The experience gained in developing the Weasel influenced Studebaker's approach to durable, all-weather vehicles in the post-war civilian market. The amphibious version, the M29C, faced constant technical challenges related to watertightness. Although equipped with sealed pontoons, the main hull was not perfectly watertight. Crews often had to battle minor but constant water ingress, which required the use of bilge pumps to prevent sinking during long water crossings. Furthermore, the track's propulsion in water was relatively slow, making the M29C vulnerable if it had to cross wide rivers under fire. The Weasel's innovative track system, while brilliant for mobility, demanded intensive and frequent field maintenance. The tracks and their suspension components, designed for lightness, were highly susceptible to damage and wear when traversing rough, rocky, or frozen terrain. Crews had to constantly inspect and replace broken rubber blocks, ensure proper track tension, and perform repairs, a demanding and dirty task that added significant logistical burden to the forward repair unit. The Weasel's great strength, its lightness, was also its greatest weakness. The almost complete lack of protective armor meant the M29 was easily disabled or destroyed by common small arms fire, rifle rounds, and artillery shrapnel. Drivers and passengers were exposed, making the Weasel highly vulnerable in close-quarters combat or when traversing areas under direct enemy observation. Its mobility was its only defense, requiring crews to rely on stealth and speed to survive. While the Weasel conquered snow, mud, and marsh, it performed poorly in rocky or highly uneven mountainous terrain. In such conditions, the broad, flat tracks designed for flotation could not find sufficient grip, often leading to slippage and track damage. The low-slung body could also bottom out or suffer punctures. This forced commanders to be highly selective about where the M29 was deployed, ensuring it stayed within its optimal environment. In line with its initial Arctic mandate, the Weasel was designed to be transported by air. It was light enough to be carried inside large cargo gliders, like the British Horsa or American Waco. This ability allowed for the rapid deployment of the Weasel into remote, inaccessible areas, but the entire process, from loading the machine into a glider to the hazardous glider landing, required specialized aircrews and perfect coordination, adding a complex layer to its operational logistics. When the war ended, thousands of M29 Weasels were declared surplus and sold to the public at auction. These sturdy, all-terrain machines became instantly popular with private owners, particularly in rural and mountainous regions of the United States, Canada, and Scandinavia. They were repurposed for a wide range of civilian duties, including logging, farming in rough terrain, and general heavy-duty transport, demonstrating the long-term utility of their unique design beyond the battlefield. The Weasel found a crucial niche in search and rescue, SAR, and emergency services. Its unmatched ability to navigate deep snow, frozen lakes, and flooded areas made it the ideal platform for organizations like the U.S. Forest Service and various civil defense units. Used by utility companies to reach downed power lines or by rescue teams to access remote, snowbound victims, the M29 continued its wartime mission of saving lives in peacetime. While highly successful, the M29 Weasel was not alone in the specialized vehicle market. It competed with and often complemented other snow-going vehicles like the more basic American bombardier snowmobiles or various improvised tracked transports. However, the Weasel's superior payload capacity and its official amphibious variant, M29C, gave it a decisive advantage in military logistics over many of its contemporaries, securing its enduring legacy. The M29 Weasel's emphasis on low ground pressure and wide tracks for flotation directly influenced the design of subsequent generations of all-terrain vehicles. It is considered a direct ancestor of modern, heavy-duty tracked military and civilian vehicles designed for use in snow and wetlands, such as the Hägglunds Bandvagn series and various contemporary specialized snow groomers and rescue crawlers. The core principle, distribute the weight, remains central to today's ultimate off-road mobility. Today, the M29 Weasel is a highly prized collector's item among military vehicle restorers and history enthusiasts. Its unique design, historical significance, particularly in the Battle of the Bulge, and Studebaker manufacturing connection make fully restored Weasels rare and valuable. These preserved machines serve as tangible reminders of the ingenuity that allowed Allied forces to overcome logistical obstacles on all fronts. While specific commendations were often reserved for combat vehicles, military leaders, including General Dwight D. Eisenhower, fully understood the critical importance of specialized logistical support. The Weasel, alongside the DUKW and the Jeep, was acknowledged as a key component of the Allied transportation network that provided the necessary flexibility and resilience to sustain the rapid offensive. Its success reinforced the doctrine that victory relied on not just fighting machines, but also on the agility of the supply line. The M29 Weasel remains a powerful symbol of American manufacturing adaptability during the war. Studebaker Corporation, a civilian automaker, successfully pivoted its expertise to produce a highly specialized, reliable, and unique military vehicle. The company not only delivered the Weasel rapidly but ensured its quality allowed it to perform under the harshest battlefield conditions, cementing Studebaker's place as a critical, albeit non-traditional, defense contractor. The Weasel's true strategic value was as a force multiplier. It wasn't a weapon that destroyed the enemy, but a logistics tool that amplified the capabilities of combat unit. By reliably delivering fuel, mortar rounds, and medical aid when and where conventional transport failed, the Weasel directly enabled infantry and armored units to stay operational, sustained their forward momentum, and maximized their fighting hours during critical offensives. The M29 Weasel embodies the Allied engineering philosophy that, in certain strategic contexts, agility and mobility were superior to heavy armor. Against the vast, static armored vehicles of the Wehrmacht, the Weasel was a non-combatant anomaly. Its survival and success depended entirely on its ability to bypass obstacles, move faster, and reach terrains that were off-limits to the enemy's logistical network. The M29 Weasel, born from an eccentric idea for an Arctic mission, ultimately served as an indispensable logistical workhorse across every major European and Pacific campaign. This low-slung, non-armored tracked vehicle proved that the most critical battles are often won not by the largest gun, but by the most agile and reliable means of transport. The story of the Weasel is the definitive proof that true engineering ingenuity, simplicity conquering chaos, is what ultimately carried the Allied victory across the finish line.